The narrative of Tom Cruise, the global cinematic legend whose life is synonymous with blockbuster feats and impossible stunts, holds one profound and tragic performance played out in quiet, devastating silence. The vanishing act between him and his only biological daughter. Sings. For well over a decade, Suri Cruise has drifted farther and farther from her father's orbit, and the world has been left to witness the emotional vacuum between them. But the silence has finally been broken, not with a public confrontation, but through a simple, definitive choice. Definitive choice. At 19, Suri has dropped the famous last name, a quiet, powerful act of severance that ultimately reveals the full, shocking cost of the divorce that rocked Hollywood and the extraordinary lengths her mother, Katie Holmes, went to execute a strategic escape plan. Viewing her daughter's protection as a matter of absolute, uncompromising survival. This is the intensely personal story of two fundamentally separate worlds created by a clash of faith and fame and the emotional fallout that follows when a daughter finally steps out of the shadow of a legend using only the strength of her own chosen identity. So, the storm began in 2005, a whirlwind romance that moved with unprecedented, frightening speed. Tom Cruise, then 43 and an international icon, crossed paths with Katie Holmes, the charming 26-year-old ingenue. For Katie, it was the realization of a teenage fantasy, having once admitted to dreaming of marrying him. The intensity of their connection was instant and blinding. Tom reportedly told his team, "I'm going to marry her." And within weeks, their romance was a global spectacle. Their courtship was defined by relentless public affection and grand gestures, culminating in the infamous moment on The Oprah Winfrey Show, where Tom's ecstatic couch jumping solidified their place as pop culture's most talked about couple. A moment that was viewed by many as the high point of romance and by others as a disturbing indicator of overwhelming, controlling passion. On April 18th, 2006, their daughter Suri was born, the symbolic product of this whirlwind union, immediately christened by Tom as his miracle. But even this most intimate family event was immediately steeped in the beliefs that govern Tom's world. Scientology. Katie, a Catholic schoolgirl raised in Toledo, quickly found herself navigating an entirely alien reality, one where her pregnancy and delivery adhered to strict traditions, including the silent birth protocol, which forbids talking in the delivery room to avoid creating trauma. To Tom, these practices were acts of love and deep dedication rooted in his faith. To outsiders, they seemed intense and highly unusual. 6 months later, their marriage was a cinematic royal affair held in a 15th century Italian castle, a dazzling event that featured Armani gowns and a star-studded guest list. Yet, behind the glamorous smiles, Katie's traditional Catholic parents watched with profound discomfort, uneasy with the secretive, influential structure that was rapidly enveloping their daughter and granddaughter. As the years wore on, the initial fairy tale began to rapidly dissolve, replaced by a controlled, highly private lifestyle, heavily influenced by the organizational power that Tom so deeply embraced. For him, this was structure and purpose. For Katie, the isolation slowly began to feel like confinement, marking the dramatic, silent start of a childhood for Sayus that was anything but ordinary. The facade of the perfect Tomcat family remained intact for a few years, but the internal cracks were undeniable. Friends began to notice Katie was rarely alone. An observant individual, often linked to Tom's inner circle and the church, seemed to constantly track her movements. During a dinner, Katie's seemingly casual comment, "Oh, we don't go outside very much," hinted at a life increasingly spent under surveillance and control. While Tom remained the confident, public champion of Scientology, Katie began to fade, her public statements about him sounding rehearsed, almost robotic. The fundamental conflict was over Suri's future. Tom fully intended for his youngest daughter to follow the same path as his adopted children, Bella and Connor, within the highly structured organization. But Katie refused to surrender that level of control, especially as she grew fearful of the intense, regimented programs like the cadet organization, Korg, that Suri would face as she grew older. This protective, primal instinct ignited her secret plan. She started pulling back, making calculated moves, skipping church events, reconnecting with outside friends, and spending more time in New York, deliberately distancing herself from Tom's regulated routine. This was not aimless drifting. Katie was meticulously preparing an escape strategy she knew had to be flawless against the immense power structure she faced. June 29, 2012. The moment of execution. Katie Holmes filed for divorce from Tom Cruise, timing the filing ruthlessly just days before his 50th birthday, ensuring he was preoccupied and geographically separated while filming Oblivion in Iceland. This was an act of profound strategic protection. Knowing she was under observation, Katie moved like a ghost, changing phones, hiring new independent security, and replacing staff members. Her secret mastermind was her own father, Martin Holmes, a lawyer who used the prenup to carve out an exit path. Katie chose New York as her legal base, utilizing the state's custody laws that favored the parent fighting to protect a child's future. She filed everything in total secrecy, blindsiding Tom, who learned of the divorce from the media headlines. For the icon known for his control, this was the ultimate blow. Court documents later cemented her motive: protection, specifically safeguarding Surrey from the organization's restrictive structure. The legal battle ended almost as quickly as it began. Within a shocking 11 days, the settlement was finalized. Tom agreed to substantial child support, around $400,000 annually, and coverage of all educational and medical costs. But for Katie, the real victory was securing total, uncompromised separation, legal, physical, and, most critically, spiritual. The day after the settlement, she and Sari vanished from Los Angeles, soon emerging in New York City, photographed walking hand in hand, finally free of handlers and guards. Katie smiled a genuine smile, a real one for the first time in years, having secured her daughter's freedom at the price of permanent separation from her father. In the ensuing years, Tom's world and Surrey's world split into two permanently separate orbits. In a 2013 deposition, Tom reluctantly confirmed the core truth. The divorce was driven by Katie's desire to protect Sari from Scientology. After one brief, private meeting that same year, the contact ceased entirely. Tom threw himself deeper into his career, chasing dizzying highs, the death-defying stunts, the acclaimed success of Top Gun, Maverick, a relentless focus that seemed to fill the void. Meanwhile, Katie devoted herself entirely to establishing a quiet, grounded life for Surrey in New York. She enrolled her in private school, ensured she attended local cafes and dance classes, deliberately raising her away from the punishing glare of the Hollywood spotlight. Despite Tom fulfilling his financial obligations, the emotional bridge remained broken. For over a decade, the man who could conquer any challenge on screen could not find a way back to his youngest child. No confirmed visits, no public acknowledgement, just an absolute, unmoving silence, leaving a generation of fans to wonder if the gap could ever be closed. Then came the shift that served as Sari's final, declarative statement. Having pursued her own creative interests at New York's prestigious LaGuardia High School of Music and Art, Sari made a profound choice during her senior year. In the program for her school musical, she was listed not as Suri Cruise, but as Sari Noel, embracing her mother's middle name. This act was far more than a stage decision. It was a powerful public rebranding, a definitive step into an identity carved entirely by herself and her mother. When she graduated in June 2024, the name Sari Noel was prominently featured on the official list. The contrast was painful for fans. Tom, the legendary star, was thousands of miles away, photographed attending a Taylor Swift concert in London, while Katie was right there in New York, wiping away tears as her daughter took the final step into adulthood. Suri then moved on to Carnegie Mellon University to study fashion, her mother personally helping her settle into the dorm. A simple, normal mother-daughter moment, free of any security detail. Her message is now fully cemented. She is no longer living as Tom Cruise's daughter. She is Suri Noel, an independent young woman whose freedom was won by a mother's strategic fight and confirmed by her own quiet choice of name, solidifying the decade-long distance as the unbridgeable reality in one of Hollywood's most compelling and sorrowful family histories.